This week, the proof of vaccination and negative test policy ended in Lloydminster, and more restrictions will be lifted by the end of the month. Mayor Gerald Albert says Lloydminster has no plans to implement localized restrictions and that the city will continue to follow Saskatchewan health rules. Proof of vaccination is no longer required to attend city facilities, but masking is still in place for now.
We just want to get to the end of that tunnel and return to that semblance of order, which I've heard from many residents that's where they want to be, and I can appreciate that, and we'll get there together.
All remaining public health rules, including mandatory masking, will be lifted on February 28th. After that date, masking will not be required inside city-owned properties, but Mayor Albert says those who still want to wear masks are encouraged to do so.
So if you see someone after the 28th that feels that they feel more comfortable walking the track at the Service Sports Center or entering a business with a mask, that's certainly their choice. But again, back to the provincial mandates and restrictions have been in place. Once they're lifted, then there is no enforcement.
The city encourages residents to continue to take steps to limit the spread, such as getting vaccinated, staying home when sick, and using rapid tests. The town of Wainwright recently received over $350,000 in funding for local projects. I spoke with the town's mayor for more details.
I'm joined here now with Town of Wainwright Mayor Bruce Pugh. Now, you've received close to $375,000 from the Government of Canada and the Canada Community Revitalization Fund, but just what was your first reaction when you got the notice that you'd be receiving this funding?
It was, I don't want to say surprise, but of course there were elements of surprise in it, but also excitement and appreciation. Quite often when we apply for grants, more often than not, of course, the news comes back as no, please try again. But so to have been given, been successful in our endeavors to get this, and the amount, like it's wonderful. It's going to be really exciting to see the results of this grant, like once the work is done.
Now, this funding will be going towards your trail network expansion and new playground project, but could you just first give me some background into this project?
Quite often, so many of the grants that we apply for and do receive, fortunately, are things that we can't see. So it would be things for wastewater or municipal services that we don't often see the results of. We don't think of it when we open our tap or when our furnace kicks in, right? All the services that our municipality is able to offer to our residents. So these are tangible, noticeable, observable things that we'll be able to see and have a direct impact on what we feel is the quality of life in terms of our current residents, but also helping make our community attractive to others. A new playground for the children of our community will be constructed over in our new development on the east side of town. The Wallace Park Pond is something we've needed to do some work in that area for a while. It's a beautiful park, but due to the water table and things like that, we've got some plans to help make it more accessible. Walking trails, of course, with the pandemic, it's been hard in our facilities. So we've had more people utilizing our walking trails, and there's almost, it's over a kilometer of paving work that's going to be done to connect different parts of our town. So it will be noticeable, and I'm sure it will be appreciated immediately.
And speaking of that appreciation, what do you think is the biggest benefit of this being able to connect people more throughout the community with this new project?
Well, I think anytime you talk about connections, you also have to talk about relationships, and the ability to connect more through those walking paths, or for parents to get together and play with their children on a new playground. I think it benefits the overall mental health of our communities. It gets us outside. It makes us feel better. Like I don't think we really appreciate, especially in really cold weather, the beauty of the part of the world that we live in. And when we have facilities that draw us outside and make us feel comfortable and safe, not having to walk on a roadway, for example, it's an overall plus for that mental health benefit, and helps build a sense of community.
And when is the town hoping to start the construction? And I know it's kind of early, but complete the project.
It's going to be rolled out in phases, but we're looking to get started right away. It's things like, again, bike racks, solar crosswalks for safe passage of kids and, well, all residents, coming to and from places of work or from school. Those things will be noticeable in a very short term. Again, the beauty of it being it's, $375,000 is, we want to make sure that we spend the money appropriately. We're not in a rush to do it. There are timelines, of course, but we want to make sure that it's not a case of spending money because we have it. We want it to be purposeful and targeted, and but the work is going to start right away. Wainwright was one of the few communities in East Central Alberta that actually saw an increase in population, and I think that speaks to the strength of our community. And it's not only attraction, it's retention. We want to make sure that people come to our community, they love it, they stay, they choose to raise their family here, and then the successive generation realizes that Wainwright has a future for them and their families as well. And something like this grant allows us to create, that environment, to create that atmosphere in which it's a wonderful place to settle down, to work, to live, to raise our families, and to celebrate being a part of a great community.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Mayor Pugh.
Now to take a look at our chilly temperatures, we'll go to Shelby Clark.
So much, Jasmine. Now taking a first look at your weather forecast, we saw a slightly cooler day, even though we are seeing -6 right now. With that wind chill, it does feel around -15. So we did see a lot more wind chill early on in the day. If you were outside, the snow and everything was probably slapping against you and all that. So it was feeling a little bit chillier, but we have warmed up slightly throughout the day, and we are seeing a mix of some sun and cloud as well. Going now over to temperatures across the region for Alberta and Saskatchewan. On the Alberta side, we're seeing some warmer temperatures compared to yesterday for sure. A lot of single-digit points with -3 in most spots on the map. Down in Provost, they are seeing +4 as well as in Edmonton, while Wainwright is at 2 degrees, -3 in Vermilion, while Marwayne is just at that -2 point, -6 and 7 in St. Paul and Bonnyville, while Lac La Biche is at -9, and Cold Lake is slightly cooler at -13. Switching now over to our Saskatchewan side here, they are seeing some slightly cooler temperatures compared to the Alberta side with those double-digit temperatures, -14 in Isle Across and Meadow Lake. Green Lake is at -16 degrees, -8 in Pearson, while St. Walburg is just hitting that -12 point, -13 down in Maidstone, while Macklin is probably the warmest at 4 degrees, and North Battleford is at -15. If in North Battleford, they will be going down to a low of -21, so they won't be seeing too bad of an evening low compared to what they saw the night before, but they will be seeing some cloudier skies, and tomorrow they will be seeing a slightly cooler day as well at -21, but they will be seeing a little bit more sun peeking behind those clouds. Switching over to Cold Lake, they'll be going down to a low of -22, so it's kind of the same conditions here as North Battleford, seeing a little bit more cloudier skies, and tomorrow they will be seeing that -20 mark throughout the whole day with a mix of some sun and cloud. And for here in the border city, we'll be going down to a low of -22, so we won't be seeing too bad of a low as the night before as well. We will be seeing some cloudier skies, seeing a little bit more wind as well throughout the evening. Then tomorrow we will be seeing -21 throughout the day, so we will drop to -21, and we will be seeing not as much sun as we have been seeing today. And now showing off one of your photo submissions. Thank you to everyone that submitted some cute weather photos to our Facebook page. You can continue to do so. I will be using them throughout the week, and into next week we will be posting for more photos as well if you missed the chance for this week. But this was a cute one. I always love seeing the pets enjoying the weather outside and seeing all the doggos and the kitty there. So thanks again for submitting this, and that's all I got for now. Jasmine will have more news coming up after the break.
A new low-fare transportation service is set to hit the border city in March, as our Tate Lee Craft took the time to learn more.
Today on Primetime Local News, I'm joined by Glenn Fagnan from Border City Connects as he's here to talk about a partnership that will bring a new low-cost transportation service to Lloydminster. So, Glenn, welcome to the show. But just off the top, what can you tell our viewers about this new deal that you struck with Drive Happiness?
Well, this is something a partnership that was formed back actually in late 2019, and we hadn't taken any action on it. We were just getting everything ready, and then of course in March of 2020, the COVID factor came in, and we never did get it off the ground. So this has been in the makings for for almost for a couple of years, and we feel now that the time is right with some of the restrictions that are being lifted, and people will have the comfort of being able to utilize our service. So that's a little bit of the background. We had followed it for a number of years, and it's very interesting. When we were ready to go, they were very willing and ready to go for us. So the whole key on the Drive Happiness model is it provides transportation services to seniors 65 plus. It'll be in the Lloydminster area, and that are in need of transportation due to limited income or mobility issues or other health related issues. So that's how that's kind of the key market that it's focusing on.
And since the service will depend on volunteer drivers, are you looking to add any new people to your team right now?
Yeah, well, we had about a dozen a couple of years ago, and I think we're probably at six to eight right now. And so we're always going to be looking for volunteers. If not for Drive Happiness, we have other areas where volunteers can be used. But that's what happens is we've got volunteer drivers that utilize their own vehicle, and they take our riders to various appointments. It could be medical, could be shopping, banking, or just to visit friends. So we're very excited about that. The city currently has a senior taxi program that works very well for many of the seniors, and it's very well used. But with the Drive Happiness, we're after a little bit of a different target market. The cost is one thing that it's very reasonable. You for the Drive Happiness, it's $10, and that gives you 90 minutes of time, or 40 kilometers is kind of the basis that they work that on. And our volunteer drivers will actually help any of our seniors into their appointments or on their errand to get them in and out of their home and out into the appointment. Some folks with balance issues or that have oxygen tanks, that type of thing, need that a little extra TLC. And that's where the senior taxi program they don't have the time to give that extra little tender loving care. So that's what we're trying to provide.
Thanks so much for your time today, Glenn.
Super. Thank you very much, Kate.
Now we'll take a look at your market prices for today.
Today's oil prices are brought to you by First General Services.
The ACAC is wrapping up their regular season for indoor gym sports. Evan Kenny has more on some changes the league will see for the playoffs.
Well, I'm joined now by the athletic director for Lakeland College, Al Rogan. Al, thank you very much for taking this time and joining me.
Yeah, thanks. Glad always to be on the call and chatting with you, Evan.
Now, Al, the indoor athletic season is starting to wind down. The regular season nearing its end. Volleyball playoffs originally were set to be held this weekend, with basketball playoffs starting next weekend. However, things have changed. Can you just take us through some of these changes, Al?
Yeah, you bet. So obviously COVID has put a bit of a wrench into everything this year, and probably about a month ago, the CCAA, which is the national organization for college sport in Canada, decided that in concert with all of the other provincial sport organizations college sport organizations across the country, that we're going to be able to move our national championships back to the end of March. So that moved the national championships back by 2 weeks. So the ACAC was able to move back everything by 2 weeks, which allowed a number of the teams who had to postpone games in the second semester here because of COVID or whatever was happening at their institution, were able to get those games in now. So it's allowed the teams to get all 16 games in when it comes to volleyball and basketball. So, the championships have moved from the February start time to the March 4th, 6th weekend. And everything's kind of getting compressed into a short period of time. So yeah, short story long.
Now, Al, I know that the futsal championship has also been pushed back a little bit. And obviously, the futsal championship was supposed to be here in Lloydminster in 2020, back before everything was canceled. So everybody obviously looking forward to that. Can you just take us through, the futsal championship coming up at the end of March?
Yeah, you bet. So futsal is actually, it was voted in December at our AGM to host the futsal championships at Lakeland March 11th and 12th, but because everything got pushed back 2 weeks, so did the futsal championships. So it's now moved to March 26th, 27th weekend. Still going to be hosted here at Lakeland. We've probably hosted the most futsal championships out of all the ACAC schools. So the top teams out of the 4 different divisions this year will qualify. So there'll be 4 men and 4 women. This upcoming weekend, our Lakeland futsal teams will be up in Lac La Biche trying to qualify to be able to be part of the futsal championships. Both the men and women's teams have a really good chance to qualify. Our women's team is in a sort of a 2-horse race with Keano. And if our gals beat Keano by 4 goals this weekend, then they'll be able to compete at the championships. And our men are in a dogfight with Portage and Keano. It's so competitive between those 3 teams. And hopefully we'll have both our teams here competing in the championships at the end of March when we're hosting.
Now, Al, just based on what we've been saying, it sounds like March is going to be a very, very exciting month coming up for Lakeland College athletics. I mean, both the basketball men's and women's teams will be in playoffs, with the women's at the current moment being undefeated. Both volleyball teams will be in the playoffs as well. Again, the women's in that top seed. Just talk about the excitement and sort of the success from this past year for Lakeland athletics.
Oh yeah, no, this year's been great. It's all due to our student athletes and our coaching staff who, with everything going on, they've been able to focus on making sure their teams are working towards a common goal. And like as you said, both our women's volleyball and basketball teams are sitting first in the North Division. Our men's teams, volleyball, basketball, there's pretty close. I know men's volleyball will be hosting at least a quarterfinal here. Men's basketball has a chance from hosting a quarterfinal as well. So, they played well, and they're actually getting better as the season progresses. We just need to make sure we stay healthy, and we're going to hopefully do well in the championships. There's, in this type of a year, anybody could make the ACAC gold medal in any one of our sports, and hopefully move on to a national championship at the end of March. So yeah, it's busy in March. It's going to be crazy busy, but it's exciting because all of our teams are in the hunt for conference championship, and it's just they're playing to the best of their ability, and we're hoping that we'll see some hardware coming home with some of these teams.
Well, I think I can speak for the rest of Lakeland College Rustlers athletics fans in saying that I'm excited. I can't wait. So that things should be exciting moving forward. Al Rogan, athletic director for Lakeland College, thank you very much for taking this time and joining me.
No, thanks for having me, Evan. It's always great to chat with you.
Now Shelby Clark will get another look at your evening forecast.
To the lovely Jasmine. Now, taking another look at your weather forecast, we'll be starting off with the central region of the provinces. As always here, we are seeing some warmer temperatures on our side here on the Alberta side, seeing a lot warmer than what we were seeing yesterday, with 3 in Red Deer and Edson, while Rocky Mountain House is at 6 degrees, 7 in Jasper, while Edmonton is at 4, and Whitecourt is just hitting that 1 degree mark, and Athabasca is slightly cooler at -2. Switching now over to our Saskatchewan side, though, they are seeing some slightly cooler temperatures compared to the Alberta side, seeing those double digits, -15 in North Battleford and Saskatoon, -14 in Meadow Lake, while Cold Lake is just a degree warmer there at -13, -20 in Prince Albert and Melfort, while here in the border city we are still sitting at that -6 point. Now switching over to our northern region now of the provinces, they are seeing some slightly cooler temperatures as well, but they haven't been seeing as much cooler temperatures as they saw yesterday. Most spots on the map are seeing around -20, -16 degrees, while Uranium City is at -23 and Stony Rapids is the coolest at -26. Switching now over to this end here, down in this area, usually are seeing some slightly warmer temperatures. Grand Prairie is at that 3-degree mark. Slave Lake is at -5, while Peace River is at -8. The rest are slightly cooler with -14, -15 in Fort McMurray and High Level, and Fort Chipewyan is at -22. But now going over to our southern region, as you can see, they aren't struggling too much. They're seeing some beautiful temperatures right now here near the end of February. 8 degrees in Lethbridge, while Medicine Hat is at 4 degrees. Coronation and Bamford 20 at 3 degrees, while Calgary is at 7. Now going over to this end here, usually they do see some slightly cooler temperatures, especially Yorkton, Regina, and Estevan are at those double-digit points. -14 in Estevan, while Regina is at -16, and Yorkton has reached past that -20 point. And the rest are seeing the single-digit points, so they aren't seeing too cool as temperatures as the rest, with -9 in Moose Jaw, and Swift Current and Kindersley are -2, -5. And now as we go back across the region and temperatures overnight, we're going to see what we can expect for our evening lows. We will be seeing some better evening low temperatures compared to what we were expecting last night. Provost will be seeing a low of -12, while Myrna will be seeing a low of -14. Wainwright will be seeing a low of -18, while Paradise Hill, Bonnyville, and Unity will all be expecting around a low of -21 degrees. Pearceland and Meadow Lake will be seeing a low of -22, and Isle of Cross will be seeing a low of -23. And as you can see, most spots across the region will be seeing a high chance of some flurries throughout the evening, while Paradise Hill, Pearceland, Bonnyville, and Meadow Lake will be seeing a little bit more cloudier skies. Now taking a look at our 3-day forecast for here in the border city, we will be seeing a cooler day tomorrow, unfortunately, at -21 for a high and a low of
-22. We will be seeing some cloudier skies to start off the weekend, but for Saturday on the weekend, we will be seeing a beautiful day there with seeing 4 degrees for our high. So we will be seeing some warmer temperatures for the weekend, especially on Saturday. And then we will be seeing a little bit less of sun than we would want to see. And then Sunday, we will be ending off that weekend slightly cooler at -21. That's another look at your weather forecast. We'll have more news coming up after the break. Joining us today for Primetime Local News is country singer-songwriter Taybeh, who plans to return to stage this year for his Shotgun Rider Tour. And I'm glad we're finally able to have you on here. We've been trying to schedule this for a long time, so thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. We're so glad that you're able to get some time out of your busy schedule to be able to speak with us. Now, what's going to be all involved in this tour, and what can fans expect? Let's start off with that.
Man, first and foremost, I'm just excited to be able to play shows again. You know, it's been probably 2 years since I've been able to, it has been 2 years since I've been able to tour. But yeah, with this particular Shotgun Rider Tour, I mean, I think I'm at the point now in my career where I can basically do a 90-minute set with mostly hit songs, songs that people are going to recognize that have heard on the radio. And I think that's the biggest difference between this tour and previous tours, is that I've got a lot more hit songs under my belt that I can play.
And it's really great to hear that you're able to finally get back on tour and be able to perform for all your fans out there. Now, there's also a new single that was released a month ago called What Was I Drinking? How has fan reaction been so far since the release?
Oh, it's been incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's always extremely nerve-wracking when you release new music. Because honestly, you just never know what people are going to like or not like. And yeah, the response has been fantastic. Something like 300,000 streams in the first couple of weeks. So that's always a good indicator when you check out Spotify or Apple Music and you can see the streaming numbers are pretty strong. That's always, a good sign that people are digging the music.
And for others that may not have had the chance to listen to this yet, what's this new single based on? What's some details that you can give us, or a little bit of inspiration that you had for this release?
You know what? It's funny you should ask, because I've got a fantastic backstory behind this song. And it usually doesn't happen like this. There's usually not some kind of crazy story that inspired the song, but with this particular single, there was. I was down in Mexico, down in Tulum, Mexico, with my producer, and songwriter, a buddy, probably like 3 or 4 months ago now, working on this new record. And I think it was like day 2 of our trip, and we went out for dinner and we had a couple drinks after. And, you know, when I say a couple drinks, I mean 2 or 3 drinks, nothing crazy. The next morning, all 3 of us woke up absolutely incredibly sick. I haven't been that sick in a really, really long time. And we think it might have been the ice in our drinks, because down in Mexico, the tap water is not fantastic, right? So if they don't use purified water in their drinks, then there's a good chance you might get sick. So we feel like that's what happened. But after 2 days of basically being on the bathroom floor, my buddy Jimmy, he goes to me, he's like, man, what were we drinking? And that right there is where the song title came from.
Well, I'm definitely glad to hear that you and your friends are doing a lot better and feeling a lot better since that moment. Sounds a little bit scary, but it's good to hear that inspiration for the release. And it seems like you got a good hit single out of it.
Yeah, there usually isn't. There usually isn't some kind of crazy story, but this one was definitely inspired, or at least it came from a very specific circumstance, thing that happened.
And since the moment we've been planning to speak, you've also had your single called Happened on a Saturday Night that has recently been certified gold. How has it been to hear this news?
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, I mean, anytime a single is certified gold or platinum or anything like that, it's a blessing, and you know, I just shows that people are digging the music and relating to the stuff that I'm putting out. And yeah, those are always great career milestones to get a plaque to hang on your wall or to give to your co-writers. You know.
Is there any future works that fans can know about, or you can give us a little teaser on that's planned?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have a record out in the fall, so I'm looking forward to that. You know, I think if people are gonna come out and check out this tour, they're gonna hear some new songs they haven't heard before. And actually, you know, there's a couple songs like Happened on a Saturday Night and Shotgun Rider that I've had out over the past 2 years that I haven't been able to perform live. So yeah, I'm excited to play the new songs live and hopefully throw a couple cool covers in the show as well.
Is there anything else you'd like to add for your listeners to know about that has to do with the tour, or anything else that I may have missed out on?
Yeah, just follow me on socials. I'd love to have you on Instagram and Facebook are my 2 main ones. Tebey Music, I believe, Tebey Music. And yeah, if we're coming to anywhere your neck of the woods, definitely come out and check out a show. We'd love to have you.
Perfect. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us today, Tebey, and congratulations on all your success and good luck on your tour coming up.
You're very welcome.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
Today I'm joined with author Robert J. Sawyer to talk about his newest novel, The Oppenheimer Alternative. Thank you so much, Robert, for joining us here today.
An absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me, Nicole.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your newest novel?
Yes, it's called The Oppenheimer Alternative, and the Oppenheimer in question is J. Robert Oppenheimer, who's often called the father of the atomic bomb. He was the scientific director of the Manhattan Project, which began 80 years ago this year in a race against time to try to develop, they thought, the atomic bomb before the Germans developed it. Well, the Germans were nowhere near developing it, and Hitler put an end to World War II in Europe before the Americans finished their bomb anyways by killing himself in April of 1945. But the bomb was ready by the summer of 1945 and was used on 2 cities in Japan, as we all well know, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. My novel is an alternate history or a secret history of the Manhattan Project. Everything that happens in the book, The Oppenheimer Alternative, is not contradicted by anything that's in the historical record. But there are a lot of gaps in that historical record. Oppenheimer himself famously said, if a reporter were to dig deep enough, they would find that there's a story beyond. Oppenheimer was put on trial for whether or not he was a communist sympathizer and ultimately lost his security clearance. But he'd said at the time, he really said, if a reporter digs deep enough, they'll find there's a much bigger story than just my security clearance. Well, nobody had ever told that story in the 80 years since the Manhattan Project began. I wanted to tell it. For my 24th novel, The Oppenheimer Alternative, that's the tale that I tell.
So you're normally known for writing more futuristic books. So what inspired you to go back in time for this one?
So one of my colleagues, I'm a science fiction writer, as you've alluded to, one of my colleagues, Kim Stanley Robinson, excellent science fiction writer and a friend of mine, said to me many years ago, I did what you're doing now. I interviewed him, but for CBC Radio back in 1990. And he said, you know, science fiction is just history continued, that you have to have an appreciation for the past if you're going to write about the future, plausibly extrapolate forward. And that had always stuck in my mind. Now that's getting on to, 32 years ago, but that had stuck in my mind. And I'd always had this desire. I'd written science fiction in the far future. I'd written science fiction in the near future. My novel prior to the Oppenheimer Alternative, called Quantum Night, set mostly in Winnipeg and Saskatoon, was set in the present day. Stan Robinson's comment had stuck in my mind. I wondered, could you write a science fiction novel set in the past and still have scientific extrapolation and big ideas and sense of wonder and all of that philosophy? And that was my experiment with the Oppenheimer Alternative, to see if you could do that. Science fiction, but historically set. So the novel starts in the late 1930s with Oppenheimer as a young man, and ends in 1967 when Oppenheimer passed away. He was a brilliant man, but also an idiot. He was an idiot in the sense that he smoked himself to death. He survived nuclear experimentation. He survived World War II. He survived, being branded a communist, but he smoked himself to death. And that's where the novel ends, but not with that, but with a more dramatic ending than that.
So this book is filled with all real characters. How much research was required in order to do that?
Yeah, there have been people who've written novels putatively about the Manhattan Project before. And there was even a TV series briefly called Manhattan. And they took the easy way out. One of the novels that I read, that a friend of mine wrote, took a minor character who happened to be the writer's father-in-law, who, yes, had been involved in research in the Manhattan Project, but nobody had ever heard of him. And that's kind of a get out of jail free card. And on the TV series, they used all sorts of fictional characters that they just made up. And again, a get out of jail free card for a writer. You can do anything. And I thought, no. These people not only were real, but they were fascinating. The characters in my novel are just J. Robert Oppenheimer. Edward Teller, who's often considered the template, he's the father of the much bigger hydrogen bomb, often considered the template for the character of Dr. Strangelove in the classic Stanley Kubrick film. Albert Einstein is in my novel. These are incredibly famous people. If you know physics at all, you'll know the names Enrico Fermi, and you'll know Hans Bethe and I. Rabi and people like that. They're all in there. Now, they're all dead. Oppenheimer's son is still alive. Many of these people, my friend who wrote the other novel, The Berlin Project that I alluded to by Gregory Benford, he was Edward Teller's graduate student. I mean, he knew Teller, right? So there are people alive who remembered these people. I felt an obligation, a moral and artistic obligation, to get these characters right, so that people who knew them or their living relatives would say, okay, to quote Khrushchev when he was photographed by the Ottawa photographer Karsh, warts and all, to get the real people. To answer your question directly, Nicole, took me 2 years of full-time research to prepare to write this book.
Well, thank you again for joining us here today, Robert.
Oh, Nicole, what a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Cheers.
Now, ending off with taking a quick look at your 7-day forecast. We will be starting off a bit cooler for the weekend with -21 with a little bit more cloud coverage. But Saturday we will see a slightly warmer weekend with +4 throughout the day. Then Sunday will end off a bit cooler and keep that cold pattern track throughout the next week. Seeing a little bit more sun on next Monday and Tuesday. Then will warm up a little bit next Thursday at -8.
Thanks, Shelby, and thank you for joining us on Primetime Local News this evening, and we'll have more news in the second hour.